Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our live stream for round 2 of the BMW Championship. Gonna go through props and of course DFS for tomorrow, and make sure you're prepared to go out there and get all of your exposure in. So to make sure you're prepared, we'll go through a look at the golf course today, make sure we're all caught up with what's happened in terms of conditions. Afterwards, we're going to focus on tomorrow, right? We're going to take a look at the weather, some of the conditions expected there for Friday, and then wrap it up with our thoughts for DFS and for props, right? How I'm attacking each slate. We'll go through a few plays that I like along the way, but more than anything, right, I want to give you guys the information you need to go out there and incorporate your own process, right? Some of the plays we go over, you may agree with, right? Some of them, you might want to go out there and fade, right? It's your own process, your own exposure. I'm not going to tell you how to bid your lineups. What I do want to tell you, though, is to go out there and create your process, right? Go out there, do the research, know where the edge is going to be tomorrow, and hopefully go out there and exploit it. So today, for main slate, pretty decent. We made a little bit of money on Jock Market and Prize Picks, and maybe not our best day on Underdog, right? Obviously, poor days will happen. You'll have bad reads from time to time. And the sportsbook industry today absolutely dropped the ball, right? Every single sportsbook prop site out there all thought it was going to play a lot more difficult than it did. And those soft conditions, well, it looked a lot like the Wyndham Championship out there, right? Not so much the U.S. Open from 2020. So we're going to talk about the changes. Maybe that changes our modeling, our outlook for Showdown a little bit. And then, of course, for props, we're going to have a completely different mindset here for the rest of the tournament. I did mention yesterday that I did think that there's a chance, right, the golf course would play easy. Well, after round 1, a bunch of 4 or 5 under par rounds, it looks like the instinct ended up being right? I told you maybe 15 under par would win. At this stage, I think that's a pretty good guess. It should firm up a little bit as the next few days go on. And you're probably going to see a slightly harder golf course here on Saturday and Sunday than what we see for the first 2 days. So let's bring up the stats and start to go through it. If you're down there in live chat, say hi, and we'll get right on into this thing. So I see we got a few people down there. Interested to see how props are going to look after today. Yeah, it'll be an interesting board. Thank you, Luke, for the GIR bangers. You've got the script. Hey, appreciate that, Bobby. Good stuff out there. I saw you hit a 6-man today. That doesn't stink, right? Yeah, we did sweep the GIR stuff. We did sweep on Jock Market. I play a little bit of a higher unit size over there on Underdog. I'm limited to much lower amounts on the other sites, so I take advantage where I can. And unfortunately, at least for me, right? I'm sure for other people it might have been different. My unit size sucked on Underdog. Let's go through this, though. So today, right, played under par. I mentioned the Sunday scoring average from 2020 because I'll remind you guys, right, it played 0.33 over par Sunday in 2020. So this half a stroke under par average that we saw in the morning, it actually played 0.63 shots under par in the morning hours, isn't completely unheard of. In fact, the morning hours there for Sunday in 2020 also slightly played under par. And all of that is because of the damp conditions, right? They got a little bit of rain there. I think it was Saturday night back at the 2020 event at Olympia Fields. And it, of course, made the golf course a lot easier. It was about a stroke and a half easier for that round than it was for the other 4 rounds. And you're going to see the golf course get slightly harder, right, as a lot of that moisture evaporates off. So tomorrow, maybe it plays a little bit closer to even par overall, right? Maybe rather than like 0.6 strokes under par tomorrow morning, it might play like 0.4, maybe 0.5 strokes under par. So we're not talking about a massive difference, right? But where I think you're going to start to see a real separation is in the PM wave tomorrow. So today it played right about even par. I think tomorrow in the afternoon, as the greens start to get a little firm, they get a little bit bouncier than they were before, I think they might start to see the scoring average get closer to like 0.25 over, maybe even like half a stroke over par. So when we're going through and building showdown lineups later, I do think you're going to see an edge between the morning and the afternoon. And it isn't because of the weather, right? It isn't because of the winds out there, so on and so forth, which we're going to go through here in a second. It's more so just because of the evaporation happening. You're going to have prime conditions for drying tomorrow. It's going to be relatively sunny up there in Chicago. And today, right, it was about a 0.6 shot difference between the two waves. In fact, I would say that the morning wave wins were even worse than what you had for the quote unquote PM wave out there. So you can see, right, it was still easier in the morning wave. And I would argue that they had the harder weather conditions compared to the guys in the afternoon wave. I think tomorrow it's going to be a 0.7 to 1 shot difference between the two waves. So if that's going to be the case, I do think you want to target some of the early starters. And today, if we just look at the board, right, a lot of the early guys got it done, right? Rory McIlroy, -5. Harman was, I guess, like midday tee time. So he kind of doesn't count for either wave. Scotty was late. Fowler was late for sure. Same thing with Wyndham Clark. But Thagala, Fitzpatrick, Kirk, Morikawa, Cam Young, I'd say, was another later starting time. But a lot of these guys like Cantlay, Spieth, Homa, Sungjae Im, a lot of those sort of players teed off early. So I know it might only be like a 1-stroke advantage. It matters, right? Obviously, you can still mix in a few PM guys. You saw today, right? Some of the PM guys still got it done. But I do think that the advantage might be a little bit larger tomorrow, right? So perhaps it's a little bit harder for the Scotties, the Rickies, the Wyndham Clarks to get into the optimal lineup. They're going to be AM wave tomorrow, I should say. But if they were in the PM wave again, right, it'd probably be a little bit harder for them to get into the optimal lineup than it was for today. But if anyone's going to do it, I'll say this, right? For round 2 showdown, it's going to be a stud. So if it's like a Scotty or Ricky that we're talking about, probably don't worry about it. But we don't have to worry about it anyways with these two because they're going to be AM wave, right? Because they were PM wave today. Let's look at the weather. So let me refresh this actually, make sure we're looking at the latest version of these projections. And I'll just preface it with this. The weathermen are saying that tomorrow is going to be calm, right? Over here on the HRRR forecast, you can see the sustained winds are sub 7 miles an hour the entire day. In fact, for the morning hours, they're about sub 5 miles an hour for the entire time period. The wind gusts are about 9 to 12, which is about half to even a third of what the wind speeds were today. So if you thought conditions were going to be prime for taking, right, they're going to be even better tomorrow. The reason why I think the scoring average isn't going to get too far out of hand would be how firm and fast the greens are getting, right? I think that it's going to start to dry up. The morning guys tomorrow, I think, are going to have a ball at it, right? It's still going to be receptive. You'll have that morning dew that makes the golf course a little bit more receptive than it otherwise would be. They'll have completely pristine greens, right? There's not going to be any blemishes on them. They're going to go out there and take this apart tomorrow. It's that I think the PM wave guys might get the short end of the stick. And I know for main slate, right, today the advantage wasn't there, right? The PM wave played actually harder than the morning wave. I actually thought that the PM wave might play slightly easier until they had that whole 2-hour delay, right? That kind of threw us off there. They weren't playing in the sideways rain and 40-mile-an-hour winds. That was a whole other thing with today that completely screwed us. But tomorrow, right, those guys that got the better conditions today are, in my opinion, going to play on a much harder golf course. So I know this weather here, it looks relatively favorable. I would say especially so for the early starters, right? They're going to get the same kind of receptive greens that they had today. I would say the PM guys, they're probably going to play on like almost identical conditions tomorrow morning, which means they should be able to take this place low, right? You had guys like Ricky, you had guys like Scotty, right? Shoot something like 4 under par. I think you're going to see that once again tomorrow morning. The issue becomes in the afternoon, right? What's a ceiling round going to look like, when Olympia Fields is starting to look like a little bit more of a test? And I think it might legit be something like 2-3 under par, right? Like Spieth, Cantlay, who else had a pretty decent round? Like guys like a Corey Connors, Cameron Young had excellent rounds today, right? And they still only got it to like 2-3 under par. I think in firm and fast conditions, that's probably going to be your ceiling performance tomorrow afternoon. Especially if it starts to get a little bit crunchy out there, which in DFS means that almost all of these like -4s, -5s tomorrow might be coming from your guys going off early. So when you take a look at my player pool, I'm certainly going after the early starters because it's an edge, right? I told you guys, I'm going to go through a few plays that I like, but more than anything, right, I want to point out the edge for Friday Showdown. And the edge is going to be with taking the early starters. And just to reiterate, if you're just getting in here, right, there was a 0.6 shot advantage today. In fact, it was 0.67 shots, nearly 0.7 shots. In the morning wave had harder winds, right? So just multiply that by a little bit more tomorrow, knowing that winds are going to be pretty average. And I think we got yourself a pretty solid showdown slate. Let's hop over to the showdown sheet, go through a few players that I've got my eye on. And then afterwards, we'll hop over to props and hopefully find some value to be had. So before we do so, let's catch up on chat, see what's going on. Where are we at? Do we think Finau can bounce back? For sure. It's golf. It's a no-cut event. He's got 4 rounds for sure. F Underdog, I agree with you. Thanks for the stream as always. Of course, Doc B. It's a lot of fun to do them, right? So I'd be missing you guys too. Do they let you correlate in golf? Yeah, they kind of do. They kind of don't, right? You can't use the same category, Bobby, but you can get around it if you like fade strokes and then take like an under on birdies or better. It's not the optimal scenario, but you can kind of get around it. I agree with you though. F them. Do you think that they have lift clean in place again? They may not. The tour official that came on the broadcast mentioned that it was kind of still up in the air whether they'd have lift clean in place or not. I would say for Saturday, Sunday, I would be kind of surprised if we saw lift clean in place, but there isn't any expected rain over the next 10 to 12 hours. So it'll depend on how much it dries up, right? I would say it's like 50-50. It's only for 1 round at a time, Mark. So they'll announce it before the round. If it's going to like be there for round 2, we'll have to see. You wish you could get back in the Discord. You don't see it anymore, but you get my Patreon stuff. DM me, Bobby. I sent you a link to get back, actually. You were out of there for like 2 days there, and I tried to get you back in. Yeah, Mark, you were banned. You're not getting back in, Mark. You're gonzo for good. Bobby can get back in, though. Bobby, I like. You not so much, Mark. You got to work on that. Eros set you up and got you kicked. He did, actually. He owes you much. I love you, Bobby. You're hilarious. When will you need to send out your sheet to the Patreon members? I already did. It's already on there, Andrew. You should be able to check it out. In fact, I'll double check right now, but yeah, it should be live. I posted it before we went live here. I'm double checking for you. You're making me double check and whatnot, but it should be up there. I'll double check that it's available for every tier. It's up there and it's available for every tier. So yeah, check out the Patreon. It's already up there, boss. You multiple times, Mark. I already told you, man. You were just like being a hater. Like, I don't know, dude. The Discord, it's great. It's there for discussion and whatnot. It's not there for people to be haters. So we'll talk about it on DM, boss, man. But like, just your vibe wasn't gonna work out. Like, I could tell right off the bat, man. Never mind, you just received it. Yeah, the emails sometimes they're a little bit delayed. I have to say that. But the Patreon, if you download the app. That would be my recommendation, Andrew. You can set notifications on there. I don't know if they have one for like Android. I know they have an iOS app. You download that, you set the notifications. That'll help you out if you're doing props too. I know a lot of times there's bumps with props, which is pretty natural. But if you set the notifications, it gives you the best shot at them. Do we have any faith in Glover? Not for main slate. I don't know if I do for round 2, just because like, he's going off like midday, right? So I don't know if he's getting the best of conditions. But for Saturday, Sunday showdown, maybe if he struggles tomorrow, right, and we get a super low on Lucas Glover, I'll play him for Saturday or Sunday, right? He's shown us that he can get hot. In fact, the ownership for round 2 showdown, just to give you a metric to use there, it's super low. Like, people I think are already going to give up on the guy. And I've got him, especially because he's overpriced, I've got him at 8.5%. Which is like half his ownership for main slate. Yeah, you could definitely play him, man, for sure. Are we saying 3 or 4 AM golfers? I would say at least 3 or 4. In fact, I think I have 4 or 5 in every single lineup. I haven't built my lineups yet. I'm thinking my role is going to be at least 4 guys teeing off in the first like 2.5 hours of play. I do have a few like mid-tier guys, like guys that are in like the middle like third of tee times that I'm mixing into lineups, but there's not very many of them. Like, a majority of my player pool, if you're over there on the Patreon, is like all early guys. It's an edge, right? So I'm taking advantage. Your daughter is using the phone. You're good. Mark, Luke is the best in the business. Don't hate. He hits way more than not. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm going to say it's like people can be mad and whatnot, but like when it's just like people are like jabbing you for no reason, it's like, all right, like, you can do that with yourself, right? You're not going to be in my Discord and just actively chirp me, right? Like, that's crazy. Rory taking the W. I think him or Scotty does, right? Based on their current leaderboard, right? A lot's going to change. It's only one round, so let's not overreact. But it's a damn good leaderboard, right? We've got Scotty up there. We've got guys like Ricky in the mix. Wyndham Clark even just playing like an absolute world beater. Cam Young, obviously one of our outrights up there. I don't know. A lot's going to change. I think a good player is going to win this week. This is the kind of golf course, because of how deep the rough is, that the best players are going to rise to the top. You're already starting to see that, and it's only been 18 holes. Imagine over a 72-hole sample size, right? You're going to see a lot of these gunners up there, a lot of these 10, 9K golfers up there in the top 3 to 5, which, I think it's going to create an interesting dynamic, right? Not to get too far off. We got to get through these plays here in a second, but like these like 5K options, I know they didn't play all that well today, right? Like Chris Kirk did, Harris English, right? 2 guys that I went with this week, but it might not matter how they play, right? If all of these 9, 10K guys go out there and they're like the top 3 to 5, which based on round 1, it kind of looks like it's going to be that kind of golf course, like a major championship, then it might not matter how much they suck, right? You might just have to have the guy that finishes in like T15 down there to open up the salary for some of the stud tier options. So I don't know. I'm liking the golf course so far. I think a stud wins. Rory could certainly be that guy. Good day for the Fitzboroughs. Matt is tied for 3rd and Alex is 2nd. Sweet. I didn't know Alex was over there playing DP World Tour. I know that he had the Challenge Tour win. I didn't know if he got full exemption for the DP World Tour, but he's certainly more talented enough. That's for sure. Can you explain the keys to building a solid showdown lineup? Seems like not a lot of people stress it. Yeah, so Jared, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm not a huge cash player myself. I'm all GPPs, right? In terms of building a cash lineup, though, in theory, it's all about median projection, right? You just want to beat half the field. If it's a double up, right, you want to beat like 52% of the field. That fluctuates from double up to double up. But the narrative remains the same, right? You want to be just slightly better than everyone else. So your thought process is to be very conservative, right? So that's why a lot of people play chalk when it comes to cash. The ownership angle too, if you want to play more ownership, sometimes people would consider that a good thing over there for cash, because when, one of your 6 players, let's say they're chalky and they suck, well, everyone's going to take that L, right? And especially when it's like an 80% owned player for Showdown, which you get for Sunday Showdown slates, it's like, it almost like taking that player makes it a 5-on-5 versus everyone else, which is actively a good thing for cash. So I'm not a huge cash guy. Probably not the best resource, but in general, very conservative, very just like projection-based lineups is what you're looking at, not really ownership-based. Scotty hitting those putts now. You'll love to see it. I'm hoping that he can, honestly, the shots gained putting today, I think he left a little bit out there, man, especially from what I was watching over the last like 6-7 holes. I played a little bit of golf today myself, so was out there practicing with some new equipment. They've got a crank driver. We've got the jailbird putter working with. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, Scotty, he gained half a stroke putting today. So I feel like he's got some room left for improvement. He was number 1 in the field off the tee, gained just 1.6 strokes with the approach play. He's a bad man. That's for damn sure. Not many people can get sarcasm, can also get out of hand. I see yeah, dude, sarcasm over text, not really a thing, to be frank with you. He really got the wrong vibe from you. You apologized multiple times. Yeah, dude, it was multiple things though, Mark. It's like every live stream you come in here, you're just like bitching. Like, I don't know, man. I just feel like we're not like in line with people. Like, I feel like we wouldn't be friends in real life, frankly. Blood Robot says, thoughts on Cantlay coming back to win this? What is he, like -1 at this point? You're feeling Neckbeard will do it. I don't know why people call him Neckbeard. I think he had a neckbeard for like a week. So I don't really get that with Patrick Cantlay. He doesn't look like a Reddit nerd either, like one of those like overweight, low T, like internet people. Like he just doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. So I don't really get the nickname. But yeah, he could definitely still win. He's 3 shots off the lead. Like he had a hell of a round today. So if you're talking about like in live outright, I don't hate it because, Scotty, Rory are taking up so much win equity right up there in like 1st and 2nd place right now that like even Patrick Cantlay only 3 shots behind. Like I haven't looked at the outright board, so don't quote me on this. I'm imagining that you're getting decent value, right? On even guys that are in contention at this point, it's not the worst idea, especially if your outright card right now sucks. It's maybe not a bad time to pile on. I've got a few guys that are doing okay. We got to get Hovland to have a good day tomorrow, but we're definitely in contention. All right, let's go through some player pool stuff, and then we'll get back to the chat. So in terms of player pool for tomorrow, I'm looking for early starters, or at least I would say from the middle of the pack earlier in terms of tee times that have upside, right? They can go out there and aren't afraid to throw darts. Victor Hovland, right? He doesn't need to be conservative out there, right? He's pretty much into Eastlake 100%. In fact, let's just double check over there on Data Golf. Does he even have a chance to fall out of the top 30? No, he is 100% guaranteed into Eastlake, right? So you know what Victor Hovland cares about doing this week? Winning the golf tournament. He could not give a rat's ass if he finishes in T50th place, which is half the reason I bet him outright this week. And it's the main reason I love him for Showdown, right? He's hole out Hovland. We know he's an aggressive mofo who's always eagle seeking. And he's also going to be one of the lower owned options up top. Now you can see he's red here, right? Because obviously when I black out some of this red sheet, the conditional formatting changes a little bit on there. But he's lower owned than everyone else above him. Cantlay, Rahm, especially Scotty and Rory, they are much higher owned than a Victor Hovland. So if you're looking for a pivot in the 10K range, believe it or not, it's Victor Hovland, right? He's cheaper than all of the other options. And I would argue for Showdown, he brings more upside to the table than all of them. He makes more birdies, especially in his ceiling rounds. Victor Hovland's no stranger, making 8-9 birdies in a round. And nobody breaks a Showdown slate more than Victor Hovland. His optimal rate for Showdowns, I wish I had the data in front of me to give it to you. He's literally got to be the top popper in all of the PGA Tour when it comes to it. I can't think of another player that I've seen in more optimal Showdown lineups than Victor Hovland this year. So I'm going right back to it, right back to the well with them, and that shouldn't be a surprise. We've also got Terrell Hatton in the pool, another relatively early tee time that should be low owned because he didn't play all that well. If you're wondering who the chalk's going to be, right, it's Morikawa. It's Jordan Spieth that played well, a Max Homa, of course, a Ricky Fowler is going to be extremely popular, especially because he's got that early tee time. But why not just take a chance on Terrell Hatton, right? It's an 18-hole sample. These guys aren't worried about being conservative and making the cut. And for somebody like Hatton, who I believe he might not actually be safe. Let's double check on that. Well, he's got a 92% chance, okay, of making it to Eastlake. He doesn't have all that much to lose, right? He probably doesn't want to finish in last place, right? That might put him in danger of missing next week, but he wants to go out there top 5, top 10 to go out there and get in position for Eastlake in Atlanta. So Terrell Hatton, $9,100, another aggressive player that I'm getting to. Tom Kim, Sam Burns, all fit the same description, right? They're all players that kind of spun their wheels today. They're all going to be mega low owned because no one wants to play a guy that spun their wheels and are going off in the perfect conditions, right? And Sam Burns, kind of like Victor Hovland, the guy just breaks Showdown slate after Showdown slate. The guy is just a walking ceiling performance waiting to happen. Tom Kim, maybe not so much. He's not as volatile, not as aggressive of a player as somebody like a Sam Burns, but he's still a decent play. He was, decently chalky last week. He got some attention this week because of the form that he's in, right? Number 6 in terms of recent form ranking. Now no one's going to play him, right? Because he shot 2 over par. Shit happens, right? You're going to see guys that shot -4 in round 1 that go over there and shoot over par, right, on Friday. That's just golf in a nutshell. It's hard to predict. And with Showdown, you've got to embrace that, right? You've got to know that golf predictions, golf props, Showdown, DFS, whatever you're doing, can sometimes be very random. You have to embrace that. Down here in the 7K range, Siwoo Kim, Denny McCarthy are players I'm getting to for entirely different reasons. So with Siwoo, it's the upside. He hit the ball beautifully today and just could not buy a putt. In fact, I don't know the shots gained number off the top of my head, but luckily we don't have to guess, right? We can just check on the site. So in terms of shots gained putting today, he lost 2.8 strokes in a single round, 2.8 strokes putting. He gained in all 3 tee to green categories, and he made his second birdie on hole 18. I guess it was his first long putt that he made because he literally kissed his putter as soon as he made it. So clearly wasn't having the best of luck out there on the greens. And a Siwoo Kim, when he can throw darts early, maybe get the putter to flip, is a dangerous Siwoo Kim. Denny McCarthy, $6,700. I say I like him for a completely different reason. We take him for the hot putter, right? Denny McCarthy, we want to go out there and gain maybe 6-7 strokes putting, right? Siwoo Kim, we want him to throw the darts. Denny McCarthy, get it done the other way. So a player that's done well at my favorite comp course, Memorial, right over there for Muirfield Village, and also a player that for Showdown can get hot in a hurry, right? When he's got that magic putter working where he's going to go out there and have that spike putting performance, he's almost certainly going to be in that optimal lineup. And then the last play I want to point out, right? There's a lot of other pivots we're playing. Of course, guys, I can only give you so much of the player pool here. All of the guys I'm taking are over there on Patreon, but it's a lot of pivots, right? I'm going extremely aggressive for round 2. I'm going after the weather edge, right? Taking the early guys. Patrick Rogers, once again, another early tee time, but also playing the game theory angle, right? If you're playing in a large field GPP, you've got to consider ownership, differentiation, and trying to put yourself in a position where you can go out there and actually spike a win or spike a top 5 finish in one of those contests when you get the slate right, when your edge, right, for us tomorrow, right, it's going to be this weather edge we're going after, when it pans out, right? If that edge is going to be tangible, it's going to be a stroke and a half. We want to be in a situation where we can actually win the GPP if we take advantage of that. If our lineups start with Scotty Scheffler, our second man in is Ricky Fowler, and let's throw Wyndham Clark in there as our third man in for our GPP lineups, you're going to have a hard time winning the GPP even if that hits, right? I know they're early tee times, but they're also like the 3 highest owned players for Showdown tomorrow. And if you're going to try and play in a 20, 30,000 entry GPP, well, good luck trying to beat all those people when you have the same players as like a third of the field. It's a tough scene, right? It's a tough situation to go out there and actually finish in first. So I'm going after the game theory pivots, especially because of my contest selection. But again, if you're in single entries or you're playing in a smaller field kind of contest, maybe you do play Scotty, right? Because he's going off early. Maybe you do play a Chalky or Ricky Fowler because of his early tee time. In those kind of contests, I have no issues with those kind of chalky players. If you're wondering on ownership, that is, of course, posted over there on the Patreon as well. And it's really top heavy. You've got a lot of people playing a Rory and a Scotty. You've got a lot of people playing the guys that killed it in round 1, like Ricky Fowler's like mega chalky out there for tomorrow's round. I'd say same thing with Cam Young. He's also going to be really chalky because he's one of the first groups off. It's all very predictable, right? The guys that you'd expect to be chalky are the ones that are getting all the ownership. In terms of surprising ownership numbers, I guess let me try and find a few. The Hovland at only 14.8%, right? That was surprisingly low to me. We had guys like Corey Connors, I should say. Corey Connors, I had projected at lower ownership than I expected because of his price increase. He got a little bit of a bump up in terms of price. And now that he's right around like Ricky, Sunjay, Cam Young, Wyndham Clark in terms of price, I don't think as many people are going to click on Corey Connors. So that I think was an interesting ownership number because he played well today too. And I believe he's got an early tee time to boot. Might not be the worst play, especially if we get a reasonable ownership number. So just double checking on his tee time here. 1 second. Yeah, he tees off in the 5th or 6th group out. So definitely going to have the conditions we're looking for. Let's catch up on chat, any DFS questions, and then we're going to hop into props and see what we've got going. Stroking the middle of the putter instead of the heel. Yeah, I didn't watch closely enough, but that's a good sign, right? Last week, that was ugly, wasn't it? Have I checked? So you're saying like trying to get guys moving into the top 50, right? So if I'm understanding your question here correctly, you're essentially looking for guys moving into the top 50. I could see it. The issue I have with that is that I actually would argue the other way, that it's detrimental, right? To be somebody that's trying to work your way in, to go from like 49th or 50th up into the top 30, I think you have to finish like top 3 or 5 in the field. So for some of these lower tier players, right, that are playing from behind, right, they're going to have a ton of pressure to get that top finish against all the world's best players, right? It's like a major championship type of field. It's like an Augusta National type of field in terms of size. I don't know. You could use that as a narrative, right? It's a narrative. It's something you could use to try and target players. I don't know if I'm as bullish on that, though. DP World Tour is always fun to watch. They play interesting golf courses. So agree with you. Alex won on the Challenge Tour, so he got an invite. Makes perfect sense. And it's fantastic that he's taking advantage of that. That's what you do, right? You go out there, you get on a hot streak, and you end up like Garrick Higo getting over to the PGA Tour. That would be really cool. You've single-handedly made Prize Picks raise all their green props, of course, but now maybe there's unders to take. So the value for overs is gone, Bobby, but maybe we get some unders now. Let's see. Thoughts on Seamus Power? Decent bounce back candidate. He's cheap. He's relatively low owned, right? He shot way over par. Let me double check on the tee time, though. Yeah, he's an early tee time, so he's the third man off. I don't hate it. He's definitely a good flyer play in a large field contest. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable getting to him in like a high dollar single entry or that sort of field, but you could throw him in a GPP lineup. I think you'd get away with it. Is there any way that shows who's in the top 30 after today and who's on the bubble? Yeah, so I think the PGA Tour site, if you go to like the leaderboard mark, it shows the current standings. It shows their projection at least. So like they have Rory number 1. Brian Harmon's actually projected at number 2 because he's up there tied for first place. But yeah, they have that on there. And then over on Data Golf, they also here, let me just share my screen, show you what I'm talking about. So on the leaderboard, it's this tab here, right? This projection tab. And then over on Data Golf, they have this probability tab on the right. This is what I was using to look at like a player's chances of getting into the weekend. Like Han here's at 91.9%. If they have the check mark next to them, I believe that means they're guaranteed in, right? So Victor Hovland down towards here, right, has that check mark. So yeah, right there, Mark. Let's get this back up. Get back into these questions. You know Sam Burns will attack the flag. I'm thinking so, man, for sure. This course reminded you a bit of Quail Hollow equals Wyndham Clark. That's why I played Clarky this week. Yeah, that was my thinking for sure. And, you know, he's just a big, strong boy, too. The guy can hit the ball country mile. That helps you out in that long rough. You agree, Jack? Absolutely. And Memorial, like Luke says, yeah, it's my top comp course. Like, they were talking about the greens looking like Memorial. They've got that long rough, a little bit of water in play, too. It's definitely looking like that. In a 20 max, how much is too much of a certain play? So in terms of like percentage. So if I was going to take in a 20 max, like maybe 60%, probably would be my max ownership. If you're talking about per lineup, so like cumulative ownership, I would do it based on product ownership. Now, if your optimizer doesn't have that, right, maybe you set it at like 70, 80% cumulative ownership, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Cool means this guy made a whole account to say you're a diva. Maybe that's your bit. Cool thing. True about unders, good stuff. Absolutely. You and your wife have a free 1K entry and a free 5K 4 flex. That's crazy. How'd you get that? Is that like a Prize Picks thing or an Underdog thing? Dude, I just gotta say, I haven't gotten a promotion from Prize Picks in 2 years. Like I guess if they don't like you, you talk shit about their site, they aren't giving you those free entries. So that kind of stinks. That's a heck of a setup there. But yeah, we'll get you on the props, Chris. We got you. Make sure you can take advantage of those because that's some pressure, huh? A lot of free slips out there. Alrighty, let's hop into this board here. So I think we do have a full Prize Picks board. I think we do have an Underdog board too. I'd have to guess, right? It's been long enough. All right, good. We've got a board over there. We've got a board on Prize Picks. We've got stuff to work with. Let's go ahead and hop on in. So you got 4.5 birdies down to 3.5 with some lower tier players. Noted. They've got 68 strokes down to what, like 70, I'd guess? Okay, 69.5 for some of your like middle tier players, lower tier players. Over here for greens, they raised all of them, which Bobby told us, but that was definitely expected. I think the average today, I haven't ran it yet, it was at least 13 greens. In fact, guys like Kurt Kitayama that shot +6 in round 1 still hit 13 of 18 greens, right? So yeah, that average was definitely off today. We took advantage of that. That was some of the freer props that we've seen for a while. And then for fairways, they've definitely got them higher than what they had for round one. They looked a little easier to hit today with how damp it was, of course. People were putting more of an emphasis on hitting the short stuff, right? Because it was lift clean in place. So I tend to agree with that. So yeah, the green board, the fairway board, I would say more accurately priced here for round two than it was for round one. But just noting that for now, right? We're line shopping right now. We're going through the categories and get an idea where everything is, right? So let's take a look at Underdog here now. Let's see what they're working with, because we want to make sure we're taking the best value, right? The best lines that we can take. So Ricky's at 68. What is he over here? Is he 69 strokes? He is. Look at that. So if you were going to take a Ricky under, right, you'd obviously want to do it over here on Prize Picks. So that's interesting. So maybe Underdog is going to have lower props than what we have on Prize Picks. 68.5 for Sanjay. What is he? 69.5 higher. Let's see. Cameron Davis. I know he's the same. Matt Fitzpatrick's probably 69 strokes. Let's see. Where's good old Matty Fitz? Yeah, 69 strokes. 68 for Xander. Probably 68.5. Look at this. I'm getting real good at just guessing the projections now. Cantlay. I mean, Cantlay's got to be the same. They always put those two at the same projection. Oh, they don't. They've got Cantlay at 68. Okay. So they agree on that one. What's Poston at? Is he 69.5? He feels like that on Prize Picks. Yeah, he's a 69.5 on Prize Picks. Corey. Okay. Corey's probably a 69 or 69.5. Okay. So yeah, he's a 69. Very predictable board. I'm guessing every single player's projection. What's Jordan 68.5? Gotta be, right? Of course. Oh my God. You know what's bad when I can just like almost mind read JTA and Steven over there in Prize Picks. It's getting a little sick at this point. Seppa's value here in Underdog, believe it or not, right? Sepp is at what, 69.5? Or is he even on the board? Yeah, he might not even be on the board. Figures. They want to post a scrub like that over there. They've got 67.5 for Rory. So obviously he's at a lower projection over here. Same thing with Rom. Let's see. What is Scotty at? Right. Same thing. 67.5 strokes. That feels pretty accurate to me. Like with the easier conditions, right? You know, it'll probably still play slightly under par overall tomorrow. But for like an early starter like Scotty Scheffler, right? He'll be playing on a golf course that's even easier than that, right? Maybe even plays like 0.7 to 1 shot under par, right? For the morning wave, right? All Scotty's got to do is gain 2 strokes to the field, right? And in this kind of field, that's not asking too much for him, at least. For other players, it definitely would be, but not for Scotty Scheffler. Let's see what else we're working with. So 68 for Tommy. They've got 69 for Tom Kim. What do they got Tom Kim at? 69. Okay. And then what was, let's look, Homa and Fleetwood. Just curious. Where are they at? Where's Fleetwood? They don't have them up? That's interesting. So we can't even comp those. Actually, there he is. I'm just blind. Okay. So there's Homa. There's Fleetwood, both 68.5. Yeah. 0.5 strokes higher. Just put it this way. I don't think I'm going to be doing fades after today. On Underdog, at the very least. I tend to agree with some of the projections here. You could probably still squeeze out a few prop slips, though. Say 69.5 for Henley. Like you wouldn't want to take this under there because it's better value. Like it's tough. Underdog is pricing these boards horrendously. Like four birdies for everyone. Like that's, if we're going to take anything, I think on Underdog, maybe it's the birdie props. Like they're much more in line with what they have on Prize Picks. In fact, Cantlay may have a lower, look at this. He's got a lower birdie prop than what we've got on Prize Picks. We can take that. Let's find a pair out here now. So with strokes, let's try and find someone that's value. I mean, I do think that like an elite tier player for birdies, not a bad idea. Like you can't lay there, but let's find a strokes prop. Might be able to work with. So it's on Prize Picks. Jeez. So hit under 5.5. Maybe. You're saying some value there too. It seems like that's the only thing they didn't adjust. There might be some value then. Yeah, there was less than 3 bogeys per round. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Mark, by the way. Now I'm thinking about it. There is value there. Like don't get me wrong. The reason why I was immediately like, oh, I don't know about that, because like Sahith makes a lot of bogeys, but yeah, the average today for bogeys was less than 3, and they have everyone at 3. That's a good look. I wasn't even looking at the bogey props yet because I was kind of just like mostly looking at like birdies and strokes. Like they have Keegan at 3.5. Okay. There are probably some birdie props we can take from what I can understand. And then I know Mark mentioned that one, but I feel like there's probably a better option than Sahith, just because he does make a lot of bogeys. But I like your thinking. Let's look at Denny. He's an option. Maybe not Sep. Sep makes a good amount of bogeys. I'm just trying to see who our options are at 3.5. So we've got Denny there. Taylor Moore is an option. We could throw Emiliano in there too. And I'm only going to play one of these, by the way, right? So this is just me like queuing up who our options are. So I guess Sam Burns, yeah, he makes a lot of bogeys though, so we'll probably not take him. Anyone else? Poston's at 3.5. And then Cam Davis and Siwoo. Oh my God. Yeah, we have a lot of options. Okay. 1 second, guys. I got to bring up some stats. I'm just going to pick the one that has the highest bogey avoidance, right? I think it's a pretty straightforward process, huh? So 1 second while I bring up that list so I can show it to you guys. Come on now. All right. So here's a bogey avoidance list. Let's try and find the first name that's at 3.5, right? So we're just going to scroll down until we find the first one. What's Hadwin at? Is Hadwin on the board? I feel like he's somebody that no, he's not. Okay. No Adam Sadwin props. That's unfortunate. It makes me sad when. Let's see. What else are we working with? Here's Ricky. Wyndham. Look, there's Denny, right? So it's probably Denny. Denny's number 29 on tour in bogey avoidance. Let's make sure that he was hitting the ball at least decently today, right? I'm still playing him for Showdown, so imagine he was. Let's see, round 1, gained on approach, gained with the putter, and then slightly lost off the tee. Only hit half his fairways, yet still got it under par. So, and how many bogeys did he make today? Just 1. Sold. All right. That is going to be slip number 1 in our slip for the stream here, right? So it's Patrick Cantlay over 4 birdies, which he's at 4.5 on Prize Picks. In general, right? He's like a middle tee time, right? So he's not in the ideal conditions, but you're talking about Patrick Cantlay, who's one of the best players in the world, right? Projected, I think, but it's going to be slightly over the field average, right? That feels like it's not high enough. More than anything, yeah, these bogey props might be the move. Like, especially like Denny, who's number 29 on tour in bogey avoidance, also only made 1 bogey in round 1. Feels like a damn good prop to take. And what is his tee time? Isn't he like an early tee time? Yeah, he's like an early tee time too. Look at that. They're already taking it off the board. Those rat bastards. Fucking hell. Oh, we got a bot down there in chat. Love it. Hey, they just keep giving me more impressions. I love it. Harley did the bogeys hit. Everyone was on the green, it seemed. Yeah, a lot of them went under bogeys. Yeah, bogeys were nowhere to be found today. Yep. They were missing like the Malaysian airplane. You guys are cracking me up down there. Just throwing jokes, even if they're dark jokes. I love them. Harmon under 3. I could see that. Yeah, you're saying Taylor Moore. I think he's a decent bet too. Let's see, what's Connor's at? For bogey avoidance, I'll double check for you. I don't think he's a great bogey avoider, but he's not like dog shit. Yeah, it looks better now, so we're good. Connor's, by the way, it unplugged because I tried to touch my keyboard here, and it unplugs the mic. It's just 15% rate, which is number 62 on tour. So for this field, I see it's like a slight better, right? So hopefully it's better now. Yeah, I got a notification on it. So hopefully it's better now. My bad, boys. You've got them watching the streams. Yeah, they definitely do. Especially Prize Picks, they definitely do. The Martians. Hopefully you can hear it now. Let me know, guys. If you can hear it now, let me know, right? Trust me, I know it went out. I get like this red notification over my screen when my mic unplugs. It's not great. Yeah, it says it's working on my end. Oh, it sounds like I'm streaming from the Titan submersible. Oh boy. Well, if that's the case, it might be a short live stream, but I'm hoping it's better now. It's good now. God, all right, good. All right, so over here on Prize Picks, there's probably some value to be had too. Like just at first glance, Ricky Fowler at 69, right, seems like a pretty solid prop to take. Let's find another under on strokes for an early tee time, right? Somebody that's going to go off in those pristine conditions. Hovland's not a horrible idea. I wish he was at 69, kind of like we have with a Fowler. Let's see. Can we find somebody with some push equity? I guess like Burns at even par. Like that doesn't seem like the worst prop. Yeah, Tony I'll probably avoid, right? He didn't have the best day. Siwoo's a little volatile. Like I feel like we could get a better player than Siwoo, right? At 69 and a half strokes. What do they got? They got Terrell Hatton up here. That's honestly not a horrible bet. What is he on Underdog? Is he at 68? Let's double check this, shall we? Where's good old Terrell Hatton? He's at 68 and a half, right? So it's slight value, but he's got the early tee time. All right, let's do that. All right. So over here on Prize Picks, the first slip that I'm going to enter over here will be these two. They had a birdie or better prop up for Max Homa at 68 and a half birdies, which was pretty absurd earlier. But naturally, they went out there and DMP'd it. So that one's not going to work out for us, but hopefully this slip will. Let's see. Any value on the par 3 strokes? They played tough today. At least a couple did. Let's double check on that. Not sure. So hole number 6 is your first par 5, right? Played 0.06 over. 3 was the super long par 5, right? So that's plus 3.6 over par for those ones. This one played 0.2 under, so it's only 0.16 over par now for the average, and then 0.14 over. So they played to like a 12.3 average. Yeah, there's probably not a huge edge there. Unless they move around the tee boxes, right? Then it might play harder. Prize Picks, if you're watching this stream, screw you for removing Ann and Glover. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Finau, for which prop, man? Are you talking about like strokes? Talking about bogeys? What are you talking about? You're liking Cole to go nuclear tomorrow. I do like him too. I like just good putters for showdowns. So I'm mostly taking Cole over for DraftKings, right? I'm playing him in my showdown lineups. It's kind of why I like Denny McCarthy too, right? Like if he just gets the hot putter, that's like a 5 under par round. So I agree with you for sure. All threesomes going off of first look juicy. It's all threesomes. I thought it was two sums again. Did they change it up? It's all two sums off the first tee, right? Pretty sure it's two sums. So you're talking about strokes. Let's take a look at him. So he's at 69 strokes. So the reason why I said I wanted to avoid him, right, rather than taking like Fowler, right, Terrell Hatton, who I was doing before, is that he didn't play well today, right? Like Terrell Hatton at least played even par golf, right? Ricky Fowler obviously shot -4, had an exceptional round. Tony Finau did not have his best stuff. So I would probably stick to guys that had slightly better form. For DraftKings, for Showdown, right, we can take chances on players. But when you're playing on a 50-50 kind of prop, right, you ideally want guys that are in form, guys that are at least playing decently the day before. If they shoot -4 the one day, right, it doesn't mean they're going to shoot -4 the next, but it does mean that they have their swing in order, right, which means they're probably a little bit more likely to repeat that the next day. So that'd be my take on good old Finau. It's two sums. Yeah, I thought so. He said two sums. Oh, he did? Did I read that wrong? He did. All three two sums. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you worded that very confusingly, though. You said all three two sums going off first look juicy. I don't really understand what you mean there, right? All three two sums going off first look juicy. So the first three two sums is what you're saying, right? So you're saying like these three groups, right? Gotta work on your wording on that. Trust me, that's not me out there misinterpreting you. I think you might be with the word choice there, bud. Corey at under 3.5 seems nice. I could see that for sure. There are probably better plays than Corey Connors, to be honest with you, because he was number like 59 or number 62 on tour when it came to bogey avoidance. Like now, Griot's just like slightly better, right, in terms of bogey avoidance. But let me give you like a different example. So let's just go down to Corey Connors and then scroll up. So you've got Griot there that you could take it under 3.5. Poston, right, who's a better bogey avoider. Taylor Moore is a better bogey avoider. Siwoo Kim is a better bogey avoider. Who else? I mean, Denny McCarthy, right? We pointed him out before. I know they don't have Chris Kirk props up, but if they did, you could take him. I would just probably slightly prefer those guys. But yeah, Corey Connors, you could definitely lean that way too, for sure. Now you're good. It was confusing me, and you were like making me feel like it was my fault. I was like, no, dude, that was crazy. Word sounds good, Mark. I'll check it out. The first three two sums. Yep. You're the robot interpreter. Paul, you're hitting them with the bangers tonight. I love it. Just joke after joke. I love it. And they're not even profound, but they're damn funny. I'll go with that. So yeah, I agree with you though, right? Just the early conditions in general are going to be the nuts conditions. The ones that I'm really targeting for tomorrow, I would say would be like from noon in before, right? I think that when you get there to like 4 or 5 p.m., like towards the end of the day out there, you're going to see these greens start to bake out a little bit. And this is for Eastern time, right? So over there for local time, these would be like the 10:54 a.m. tee times. We're the ones that I'm cutting it off with. That'll be finishing their round by like 3 p.m. local, which hopefully is before the greens get super crusty and people start hitting the ball over the place out there. Which is going to be fun. I want the course to play difficult, right? Like it's fun to see birdies, but like it's even more fun to see guys struggle. That's my evil take on golf, at least. So we've got the couple strokes props in here. I considered taking like a Spieth over birdies at 4. I think that the strokes props might be a little bit better just because you didn't see a lot of bogeys out there today. Again, the average was lower than 3, which is about 1.5, 2 bogeys lower than what you saw in 2020. The birdie rates weren't all that different, right? The birdie rate was like, I think 0.1, 0.2 higher than what you had there in 2020. The difference, right, came to the bogeys, right? Like people just aren't making bogeys this time around, at least not at the rate that we had last time. So like strokes is probably the best category. Like there are blow-ups, so you can still make double bogeys. Don't get me wrong. Like you get offline at this golf course, it still sucks. There's still trees that can gobble up your ball, a few water hazards, but it's not like it was in 2020. Let's just say that much. This Sam Burns prop just keeps catching my eye. Like every time I scroll past it, it's staring at me in the forehead. It's like, Luke, you should be taking Sam Burns at this sort of prop. What is he on Underdog? Let's just line. I don't recall what he was over here. I want to make sure we're not getting something without value. He's at the same prop, so we might even take him over here. Let's go ahead and throw him over there in the bucket. What else are we working with? Like even the 68.5s, like I'm tempted to nuke some unders, like especially for like these top tier players, like a Hovland that has one of the earlier tee times, like that it's tempting me. What is he over here on? Is he at the same projection? No, he's also right one lower. I might have to do it. We'll leave it in the shopping cart for now. You bartended San Diego. If you're ever in the neighborhood, you got my whiskey all night. Dude, that'd be sweet. All right, I'll let you know. Next time I get out there to the Farmers Insurance Open, I'll definitely hit you up. I've it's been making it at least an idea. Like, I might go next year for the Farmers, and I'll definitely let you know, man. But let's figure out what we're doing here with this slip. I'm very tempted to take this under on Victor because he's got the nuts conditions, and it's a perfect course for Victor. I'm high on his prospects to begin with, but especially so when he's going to have the advantage for him. So they got Burns at 3.5 birdies. Oh boy. The average for birdies today was 3.2 though. That's the only thing kind of holding me back there. Is like it's a lower average than the projection, right? So like I know it's value compared to prize picks. I just don't know if it's the right value. Let's keep the strokes prop in there. We could take a bogey prop, right? That was always in the cards. Who was another one of the good bogey avoiders, right? So it was Denny McCarthy. Who was the next highest on the list? Siwoo Kim, right? So if we went and took Siwoo for under 3.5, make this a card. Both of them are early tee times too. All right, sold. We'll go with those two. So reason why I went with these two for value, let me lock it in, is of course Sam Burns, right? 10-10 tee time. He's one of the first 4 or 5 groups off. And then Siwoo Kim is a slightly later tee time, but he's the second best player at 3.5 bogeys when it comes to bogey avoidance. And also a player that today, I believe, went under his projection. And that was despite having a really shitty round. So just to give you an idea, right, Siwoo Kim ended up shooting 1 over par, yet still only made 3 bogeys today, right? Didn't have his best stuff, right? Was horrible with the putter today. Wasn't even all that good with the irons, right? Just right around a neutral with the iron play, yet still only made 3 in the harder PM conditions. So I think that's a solid prop to take. The Sam Burns one, maybe a little bit more of a 50-50, but it's more of just a gut feeling with Sam Burns. The guy bounces back after bad rounds. I know he didn't have his best stuff today, but it wouldn't be that mind-blowing for him to go out there and turn this around. He had a double bogey. He had 2 bogeys on the round, yet still mixed in 3 birdies, right? So he obviously wasn't playing well. He lost 2 strokes on approach today, yet still was, he showed signs of life, right? He had a few good iron shots, a few good putts that dropped that hopefully he can take advantage of again tomorrow. So yeah, the scoring average for the morning guys, if you're just hopping in here now, there is going to be an advantage for the morning guys tomorrow. Today it was about a 0.67 shot advantage. Tomorrow there's going to be even lower winds, which in the morning wave today, the winds were actually higher than the afternoon wave. So this 0.67 shot advantage is probably going to be at least a shot tomorrow, right? So the morning wave guys that are teeing off in next to perfect conditions, I think it'd play a half a stroke, maybe even a stroke under par golf course, which for somebody like a Sam Burns, right, who's at the very worst, an average player for this field, probably a lot better than average, right? Even in this kind of field, right, you would have to project under. So that's the thought process there. It's a long-winded thought process, but that's what we're thinking. Let's do another slip over here on prize picks, and then we're going to hop on out of here. End it after that. See, any questions? 3.5. Yeah, I saw that one too. For Thagala, the issue is bogey avoidance is really bad. And I mean bad